What's going on today, man? You already know what it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Oh, let me get back over here so I can be seen. All right, man. So today, uh, we got a very special guest, man. Good brother by the name of Julius Hall. And I heard about his story through a lady who's developing a new YouTube channel. Her name is Tiffany, and I believe the name of her channel is Prison Talks with Tiffany. If not, I'll get that right later on for you. Make sure you have it right. But anyway, I watched the interview, and I just thought it was extremely interesting, man. This guy has a real good story to tell, and I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll get into it. But
Okay.
so tell us your name.
Julius Hall, my brother, and I'm glad to be here on the show with you. I heard so much about you and the good things that you're doing. And I'm here in Georgia. Uh, I did 21 years in Fed in the federal system. Been home now about 10 years and just started to recreate everything. I got this saying that once paid, a debt is no longer a debt. So when you paid your debt to society, you don't owe anybody. Just go about your life because you can go anywhere from where you at. All you have to do is believe in yourself and that you can make it. So, with that, I knew what I can do. I knew my capabilities. I knew what I was capable of doing. And so I just set off a new course to reinvent myself or to make myself better. So with that, I came home, and after a few years of working, because the probation officer make you do what you have to do,
Mm-hmm.
um, I started to think that I need to work for myself, and so that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years. Well, about the last 8 years. Um, I I am a political consultant. I help get people elected. That's what I do. When anybody wants to get elected in Chatham County, Georgia, near Savannah, then you need to call me if you want to win. I also do some business marketing and just political consulting and political and business marketing. Doing a couple of big consulting jobs now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I have my own media platform. I saw where there was a void in this area for information being disseminated to the Black community in a positive way. Everything you see is negative about Black people in the white media. So I decided that I'll change that. So we have about 16 shows. We started out with one, then we went to six, then we went to uh, 10, then 16, then we're up to about 30 something shows now. Um,
Okay.
on our platform, and it's a media platform called Our Black Media. All things relevant on Facebook. We broadcast off of Facebook under All Things Relative. We broadcast off of YouTube under Our Black Media, and we're going to Roku TV after a while. We'll also be streaming on our website after a while, where there will be subscriptions to view. We have shows from everything from politics to religion, from food to health, to from financial to incarceration to incorporation.
Mm.
We got everything comedy. We got everything on this on this platform under our podcast. Our podcast, we only got two shows that last 2 hours, and then the other, and we're all the rest of them last an hour, and we got two or three that's 30 minutes long. But all in
Okay.
all, we're going to also start a nightly newscast where we'll be broadcasting the news. Like you turn on, you'll be able to watch the news. Yeah,
Right.
so it's a
Well,
lot.
congratulations, man. And likewise, like I said, I heard a lot about you as well. And that's why I was so extremely intrigued in your overall story, not just your prison story, but um just the steps that you made to better yourself since you paroled. And like he said, he did 21 years in the federal system, and that's extraordinary by itself. But what I haven't mentioned yet is he was a former police officer before he went to do those 21 years, who got caught up in drug dealing and things of that nature. So we're gonna get into this interview and let him explain all that, because I like to interview people who are interesting to me. I mean, I think it
Right.
makes for a better interview, because who their story, for whatever it is, it creates a natural curiosity in me. And I think those are the best interviews, man. So let's get started. And I kept smiling by the way you say Georgia, man. It always brings a smile to my face, man. So tell us if you don't mind, when you was born, and where you grew up at, and what was it like?
Well, I was born here in Savannah, Georgia. I know I look 36, but I'm really 60. I've been gray since I was 9 years old. So I was premature gray. Even in high school, I used to have to try to dye my hair
Mm-hmm.
because I was premature gray. It wasn't all gray in high school, but it had streaks of gray here, gray patches here. So I had this big afro back in the day when I was growing up. Afros was the thing.
Right.
So yeah, I grew up here in Savannah, Georgia, and uh, uh, became a police officer in 1981, 82, and did 10 years uh, at the police department. I really was there 11 because I started working at the police department when I was in high school. And so when I was in 11th grade, I started working at the police department. And I was dating this girl. Her mom was over personnel. So the next thing you know, when I'm 20, I'm on the police department. And,
Wow.
so when I'm 29, 30, I'm in prison. you
Right.
know,
So,
so it's
so
9.5 years on the department, 2 years uh, as a city employee. So it's all comes to 11 years on with the city of Savannah where I was at.
right. And so I did the quick math. So I added up. So you was born somewhere around 62, right?
Correct.
And so tell us, what was it like, growing up in Savannah, for individuals like myself who've never been to the South, and that's definitely a place I want to visit, Atlanta, Savannah, down that area, Memphis. But so what was it like? Was it a small town, or what was you know, what was the
Well,
surroundings in the area like?
well, in Chatham County, which is is the major city in Chatham County. We have 8 cities here. It's about 350,000 people, 190,000 in the city of Savannah. Um, so it's not real big, but it's big enough to be comfortable. It's not like Los Angeles or going to Atlanta where all the traffic is all clogged up, even though we got plenty of traffic here. Um, but growing up here, I didn't recognize a lot of the racism that my parents might have seen, or somebody that was 10 years older than me would have
Hmm.
seen. Because when I was born out in 1960, by the time I was able to understand the racism or be affected by it, it was at a cooling off stage in 1970. I'm 10 years old, and I didn't go into many white neighborhoods. The only thing we did was go to school with white kids. So I didn't see a whole lot of it. And now you see it systematically in the system, in the government system, through politics, but you don't see it too much with people themselves because Savannah's majority black. It's the black city on the east coast of Georgia.
Hmm.
So we're majority black, and we don't play that here. You know,
Right.
you get checked if you thinking that you're gonna get away with something here. We don't sit back and be scared like they might do in Mississippi or Kentucky. But no, that don't happen here.
and that's interesting. That's interesting to hear because me myself, just being born and raised in California my whole life. We think that all, or at least I was raised to think, or whatever, some type of way I end up getting this type of thinking that all the South was basically, like you said, kind of like the image you painted of Mississippi, where it was real racist and stuff. And then I didn't know, once again, that Savannah was a more um the population of the blacks was larger than the population of the whites. So I'm thinking that it's all, it's real racial, and you're hearing the N word a lot and all that type of stuff. So you described something that was the exact opposite of that. So I think that was
Well,
probably nice to
well,
grow up in.
there is racism now, but
Right,
they've taken it and put it in the systems now. It's in the government systems. It's in the police department. It's in you know the banking, like it is all across the whole country.
right,
What I'm saying is not prevalent where they're hanging you, where they're calling you boy, where they think that they run things. They don't run nothing here.
right,
We run this county. We run the
right.
Chatham County Commission. We run the city government uh, 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 in about three of the five cities here. Uh, we we got the DA is a black female for the whole county. The tax commissioner is a black female for the whole county. The coroner is a black man for the first time ever. I helped get all these people elected, but
Wow,
that's what I do for a living.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out where I developed these ideas and thoughts about down south, and now I'm seeing images of, I know you're familiar with this old magazine, Jet magazine. My grandma, she was a subscriber to that, and ever since I can remember, she had Jets all across her coffee table, man. And so I
Mhm.
remember seeing some images about some brothers being hung down there or something, and I remember hearing about the Wayne Williams incident. But all, now that I'm sitting here recalling that, all those things came from reading the Jet magazine, which, for you guys who may not know, or too young to remember, Jet magazine was an all black publication. So anyway, earlier you told us that by way of a girlfriend of yours mother is how you started being coming involved with the police, and the police station you was working there, and then you end up getting a job. So how was that? Was that from being in contact with the officers? Did they convince you that that was a career that you wanted to take?
That's exactly what happened. I started out working. I was opening doors for the custodians. Uh, it had an outside custodian cleaning crew that came and cleaned the police department at night, and my job was to open the doors for them. I went there after school. I started in 11th grade, and I went there uh, from 2 to 10 at night, and I would
Uh-huh.
open the doors for the custodian crew company that came in to clean the floors, to empty the trash, dust, and all. Every night, I would go there from 2 to 10, and I would open the doors. That's how I started out. And from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, you always had all these officers always there.
Right.
So I became friends with all of them. So they all liked me, and all of them wanted me to become a police officer. And I thought it was a neat job because I'm up there with the detectives most of the
Uh-huh.
day because I worked in the building.
Right.
And
Okay.
then I went out to the police academy because I worked in quartermaster. That was the place that all the equipment. It's like a military term. And so I had to go out to the police academy to outfit the officers with their hats, their belt sizes, their shoe sizes, their uniform sizes, everything. We had to get bulletproof vests, everything for each one of the officers. So I got to
Mhm.
see the academy firsthand. So next thing you know, I'll say, okay, this might be. I wanted to go to school, be a lawyer, you
Right.
know, but I ended up being a police officer.
Okay. So about what age were you when you ended up finishing with the police academy, and you first became a police officer?
Well, I was too young. I was 20,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing was you couldn't be an officer until you was 21, really. But I
Okay.
went to since I was a, the chief loved me. Everybody in the department loved me. Um, I went to the police academy early, and I had 3 months before I was 21. So for those 3 months from like October until January, I was with another officer walking a beat downtown on Broughton Street, downtown Savannah,
Mhm.
for those 3 months. And when I became 21, then I was sent to the streets.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So back then, so I'm thinking again in my head. So that was maybe what was that? Maybe 79, 80.
No, it was 1982, 83.
Okay. So was crime extremely prevalent back then in Savannah? What was it, what was it like being an officer back then, early into your career
Well,
and walking the beat?
I mean, it wasn't no different than anywhere else. Drugs were prevalent everywhere. Uh, the crime is out of control now with the youngsters not caring about anything that they do. They don't care
Right,
about life. They don't care about killing nobody. They don't care about dying. They
right.
don't care about being in prison. They just don't care.
Hmm.
And We have to change that mindset for our African American young men who are at risk of going into prison or dying or killing somebody. But no,
Right.
crime was not bad back then. It's different now than it was back then. Way totally different. Today, the officers seem to be more concerned with traffic stops and than really doing police work. They're really
Hmm.
scared to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what type of officer were you like?
Uh, and that's a good question. uh, I was the kind of officer that everybody loved. Even now, people recognize me as being a former police officer. Some people didn't even know I went to prison. They thinking I'm just retiring. 30 years ago. They thinking I'm
Right.
still was with the police department. Oh, I
Uh-huh.
remember you, Officer Hall. Officer, I remember you. Officer, you might call me inmate Hall,
Right.
but but no, I was even when I went to prison, the guys who was in prison with me because they sent me to California.
Hmm.
The feds prisons are everywhere throughout the United States. They
Right.
send
And
you where
so
they want to send you at. And being
right.
that I was a police officer, they didn't want me in a Georgia prison. They sent me to California.
Hmm.
So I did 2.5 years in Long Park, California, and kind of rough out there. And uh, I was the kind of officer on the street that everybody loved. So
Right.
all of the inmates that were from Savannah vowed to not let anything happen to me from being a police officer.
Right.
Yeah. So they vowed I was out at the penitentiary, so they 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 weren't. I didn't need the protection, but and none of them talked about me being a police officer until one of the guys got mad because I wouldn't give him a carton of cigarettes, and then he went to telling everybody that I was a police officer. And he's dead now.
Mm. Okay.
So he tried to get me killed, but he beat me to the grave.
Right. Okay. So before we get deep into that part, so let's go with uh so you said you was a police officer. You was the type that tried to help more than hurt and stuff. And so when did you notice or how did the introduction of crack affect crime, in Atlanta, or excuse me, out there in Savannah?
And you're saying that when did the
Like the like when as a police officer, you guys started noticing that the introduction of crack cocaine.
Oh, okay. Well,
How
we
did
we noticed it when we saw. See, what happened was that made the crack epidemic explode was, if you remember back then. I don't know whether you're old enough. How old are you?
I'm 51.
You might remember some of it. The
No, I
Miami
definitely
Boys, the
I
Miami
definitely
Boys
remember.
started spreading out across the whole United States,
Mhm.
carrying their drugs all over the United States. And so they started in the South, really, and they came to Savannah. And that's how I got caught up in it, because I met some of these guys, and they
Mhm.
were dating a girl that I was dating cousins. So
Right.
we all dating the same group of females. And I had
Okay.
a nightclub. I was a police officer with a nightclub. And so they used to frequent my nightclub a whole lot,
Okay.
and they bring their girls there who was my girlfriend's cousins. So we all uh, it's really a long, long story. But here it is: the Miami boys branching out, bringing drugs from Miami all over. They figured they that's when the uh, crack cocaine really bloomed, and it just spread across the country. And you would see all these news stories about the Miami boys taking over territory, going here, taking over, going to this city, taking over, going. They did the same thing in Savannah,
Right.
you know.
Now, so you was a police officer with a nightclub. So what was your initial feelings when you noticed these drug boys at your club, and by you being a you being an officer of the law?
Well, first I was from the street, and then
Okay.
I knew where I grew up at.
Right.
Um, my whole family, well, not my whole family, several people in my family were selling drugs. Uh,
Right.
you know, so next thing you know, um, I'm friends with these guys because we all dating the same family of girls, and my family. So we all connected by chance. It's a long story to tell you how it happened, but we all connected. And next thing you know, they're all working and bringing the drugs here for my family to sell. And I'm the one that's orchestrating it for some reason. What the
Right.
hell made me do that? I don't know. But,
Well,
money will drive you to do things that you wouldn't do. Or,
right. Are you still there? It sound like your volume got low.
oh, no, I'm still here. You hear me?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
No.
So listen, because I've seen before, man, and I've seen before where sometimes we have, and I really sometimes hate to make racial differences or whatever, but sometimes it is just what it is, man. I've seen certain where sometimes white officers will find out their families involved in some type of crime, and their moral system will have them go turn them in. I believe a lot of blacks, we were raised to have nothing's more important than family ties, man. And so was your feelings towards your family of the ones selling drugs? Hey, you guys are selling drugs. I'm an officer. If you get caught, you get caught, but I'm not gonna turn you in.
Uh, well, you couldn't, no matter what your situation was, if you were by yourself, you couldn't turn your family in. Just goes against everything that uh, I was raised to believe. You don't turn your family in. You
Right,
don't do anything to hurt family, because in
right.
the end, they're the only ones that you have. When I went to prison, what did I have? I had my family.
Nothing but family. Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah. So no, I've never had that thought of telling them, hey, I'm the law. They respected that. They
right,
didn't. Before I got into the game, my family would not do anything in my face. They
right,
respected that. They respected me. So
right.
that was the case.
Right. And so I heard an interesting story on when I was looking at your interview with Tiffany. So and you were saying it's a long story. So if you can give us the short version of, you said something similar to, something to the regards of how you were at this girlfriend's house or something. You were somewhere and you happened to open up the refrigerator and you seen a bunch of drugs and stuff in there.
Yeah, I was dating this girl, and I was married, but I had a girlfriend because I had a
Okay.
nightclub. So
Right.
all the nightclub owners got a girlfriend,
Right.
especially
Right.
if your wife ain't
ain't
there
nothing ain't
working.
nothing ain't nothing wrong with a side
Yeah,
chick.
yeah. And so I was we went out of town. I had an appointment out of town to take a class in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
So it was only supposed to be for uh, a Friday. I was going to take a special class. So I told my wife I had a 2-day course. So I took my girlfriend with me, and
Mm-hmm.
we went. and we came back a day early. We were supposed to stay
Okay.
until Sunday night or Monday. We came back on Sunday early, and when we got home to her apartment, I usually keep a 6 pack of Michelob in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to get my Michelob, and when I picked it up, it was hot. It wasn't hot, hot. It just wasn't cold enough to drink.
Uh-huh.
It was just chilled. So I said, "Oh man, I can't drink this here." I noticed that the refrigerator was turned down, but the freezer was turned up.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Well, who did this?" So I opened the refrigerator, put my beer up there so it could cool because I wasn't going home till the next day. My wife still think I was out of town. So when I opened the refrigerator, I seen these oatmeal cookies in it,
Right.
and the refrigerator turned up and it's frozen. So I uh, immediately knew that that was crack cocaine.
Right. And so let me briefly explain real quick for our square listeners out there, man. Sometimes when you would cook up the crack cocaine, it would it would almost look like a cookie. It would be because I remember back when drugs first hit the area that I was at, they were selling drugs out of a place they used to call it the cookie house. And that's what these the cocaine would look, they would come out in like small little white cookies, and that's how they look, about maybe the size of an oatmeal cookie
Right,
or whatever. So for you guys who don't know, that's what he's talking about. But okay, so
right.
go ahead. So what was so when you saw this, had you ever seen crack cocaine before at this point in time in that shape, or so did you immediately know what it was? What was it like, seeing that stuff in your refrigerator? And then what was your
Well,
next move?
I didn't know exactly what it was. I'd seen crack cut up, but I'd never seen it in a cookie form like it was.
Mm-hmm.
These boys here was very inventive, um, and so they had it in cookie form. The reason they had it in the freezer was they was putting too much cut on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got crack cocaine and you got too much cut on it, it will melt.
Okay.
So they were putting a cut on it so they could sell it. It wasn't as potent as it should be, and they could sell more of it. They might can
Right.
make 3 keys out of 1 key.
Get a bigger profit. Right.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of selling it at its most potent form, they had this comeback that they were putting on it that made it expand.
Yeah, that stretched it out. Like you said,
Yeah,
they would take
yeah,
they would take 1 key, which is 2.2 pounds, and by the time they mixed it and cut it, they could turn it into 6 pounds and of course make a bigger profit.
correct, correct,
Right.
correct.
I know a little something about that. So um upon you seeing it, and how did you find out exactly what it was? And then what was your feelings?
Well, when I found it, I took it out of the freezer, and I knew that they were coming back. I knew that the guys that put it there were coming back, and
Oh,
they
so they
didn't
were
know we were
gone.
coming back early that day. They didn't know they expected us to come back the next day
Oh,
or
okay,
later
okay.
that night.
Hmm.
So we came back a whole day early.
Right.
So
Oh, okay.
they didn't expect it. So when I took it out, and I hid it in my daughter's room, in my girlfriend's daughter's room.
Hmm.
And when I hid it, when they finally came home about an hour and a half later, I could hear them in the kitchen going in through the refrigerator saying, "Oh, it's gone, man. What happened?" They realized we were in the house,
Right.
so they go to
Okay.
scrambling to get out of there because they know I'm a police officer.
Right.
So they used to come to my club and spend plenty of money. I didn't care, you know. But that's how I really got started with them. That's the long story I was telling you about.
Right.
They uh, so I wouldn't let them get out of the house. One of them, it was four of them, and one of them he didn't trust me, so he left.
Hmm.
The other three sat down and heard what I had to say, and I told them I wanted to introduce them to my. Y'all can have the distributorship through them. That kind of story went on, and that's how they got to selling drugs with my family.
Right. So how did you eventually get caught up in it? I mean, what made you start, I guess involving yourself in it to the point you could get 21 years? I mean, what was your involvement? In what capacity did you become, involved in the moving of the drugs?
Yeah, I went a little too far, and uh, I like order. I'm a disciplined person. I like order. I like to make sure that things run a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin was running it at first, and they were blowing the money. They would come here, bring the product here. They would all, and then next thing you know, they're broke the next week.
Right.
I like the order.
Right.
So next thing you know, what I'm doing, I'm telling them that keep doing this here. Y'all messing all the money up. You got to put back money in it every time from your own money. No, you
Mm-hmm.
should have that money set aside so you can go back and get more. Matter of fact, you
Right.
should have it where you can go back and get double what you used to get. And the next time you go, you need to go get triple what you was getting. So
Right.
I was the organizer. I did do that. But that's the way I do now in life now. I organize things.
Right.
But I'm
Right.
doing it in a legitimate way, for people to get elected to office and people um, um, to rise in business. I do business consulting and political campaigns. So
Okay.
everybody has this skill set that they don't. Um, few issues, uh, something triggers it, and what triggered mine, knowing that I knew I had it, but I used it in the wrong way.
Right.
And I would caution anybody not to get involved in drugs because you lose a great part of your life. And that's why I mentor so many kids now today to tell this story so that they can understand that prison is not where they want to go at. Some of these kids are unreachable, and you just got to keep trying. I could have gave up on these kids a long time ago, but because they make you want to give up because they
Right.
don't want to listen. It's a
Right.
different
Right.
mindset today.
Right.
So, but I got to keep on because I know if I don't, then I know where they'll end up at.
Right. And then, like you say, they don't want to listen, especially because they don't see you as an individual who they're idolizing right now. I'm sure if you came up in there with the $200 sneakers, four or $5,000 worth of chains on your neck, they'd be more intrigued and more willing to probably be receptive to what you have to say. And that's, now they see you as an older guy, and it's just sometimes it's hard to get through to some of them. And I definitely understand. So from your organizational skills with these dudes who was getting this money, was you also receiving money? And if so, what was you making? What was you getting?
Well, at first it wasn't any money. I mean, it was money because you don't get into it without uh, making money. Who would sell drugs and not make no money?
Right.
We started out and the take was too small, and somebody else was uh, controlling the money. And then I'm looking at it and saying, "Hey, y'all taking too much risk for this little bit of money. Y'all blowing your money on these girls every time y'all coming from Miami. Next thing you know, you done spent all the money. Now you need more money to go re up on.
Right.
No, we gonna do this different. I'll pay y'all something every week. Y'all bring all the money here. I'll hold. We'll see what kind of businesses and stuff that we can go into, but we're gonna save this here. It was only meant to be three to 4 years of saving, so we can do some things and get on top, get that head start. It was foolish, um, and I regret it to the day because it took 21 years of my life.
Right.
But who knows what God had in store for me? Who knows
Right.
what paths that they have to travel that God wants you on? So, I feel like something else was dictating my life. The devil might have been trying to get me, and God might have been trying to pull me another way. But that's where I ended up at.
Right.
When you do crazy and devilish things, you have to face the consequences of your actions, and that's what happened with me.
Right.
But um, it's a journey that everybody has to take, and that road that I traveled was a long, hard, pain-filled road because you see so many of your family members die and you can't get to their funerals. 18 months before I was released, my mother died, and they
My con-
still wouldn't let me. I'm a model prisoner in a
right.
prison camp, and they still wouldn't let me go.
My condolences. My
Yeah,
condolences, man.
yeah.
I hate to hear that. And and so initially, when you were saying you was talking to them about blowing the money, I thought that you was referring to your cousins. So
I
were
was
you
all of them. I was
so
referring to all of them.
so the
The
Miami
Miami
boys and
boys,
stuff too?
yeah, it was four. It was three Miami boys,
Oh,
and
okay.
those three they were coming here, and they before they leave they were broke because they spent all the money on the girls.
Right.
And so
Okay.
I had to tell them that, we're not going to do business that way anymore. And so we started saving money. So before you know it, we got a little over $100,000 saved up. Everybody's getting a weekly amount of like anywhere $500 a week. And back then, $500 a week extra was a
A lot of
lot.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like 5,000 now.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I
So
right.
you could do a lot with 500 back then, extra a week. So you're making $2,000 extra a month, and you saving all the rest. And
Right.
so we opened this nightclub. We were renovating the nightclub and everything. Then put over $80,000 into the nightclub. The Miami boys, they wanted to open a car wash down in Miami, so I gave them $20,000 to go open the car wash down in Miami, and then they end up messing that up. But we were working on the nightclub, and before it opened, we all got popped.
Hmm. So let me ask you this. Now knowing the fact that you was an officer, basically let's just use this term. You was an officer by night. I mean by night or day or whatever, and you was a basically a drug manager and a consultant by day or whatever. And so, did you have any hypocritical feelings like I'm enforcing the law, but I'm breaking the law, or just where was the money? The just being intrigued by money. Did it?
Money was the key factor, but I had no hypocritical feelings, even though it was hypocritical. I people in jail for drugs, you know. So it wasn't really hypocritical that I would put you in jail for drugs and was selling drugs
Mhm.
or involved in drugs. I never sold drugs. I was just involved in the drug game.
Right.
Nobody can ever say they brought any drugs from me.
Right.
Um, I was just involved in the game. But I grew up in the hood. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew
Mhm.
up in West Savannah. I grew up around the bandits. You know, I just saw that I wanted to do something else. So it
Right.
wasn't no that I wanted that I grew up privileged, and then I went to doing that, and now I'm being a hypocrite. No, I
Right.
grew up in the hood. I knew the struggles. I
Right.
knew what it took to get out of it. You know, I was living
Mm.
okay, but back then on the police salary, you know what I was making?
And look, it's crazy that you say that because that was going to be my next question. I was going to say I'm pretty sure that back then probably a police officer it was still more as a job in terms of a career in pay because you probably wasn't getting a whole lot of money back then, right?
I was starting out. I was starting out police salary when I first started was $19,000 a year.
Okay.
When I when I was in 9 years later, I was making $24,000 a year.
So that's basically just two thousand a month.
Yeah, yeah. So I was
Mm-hmm.
making $24,000 a year as a police officer,
Mm-hmm.
and um, or I might have when I finally left, I might have been making 27 because I was a corporal. Um, and starting police officers now make $50,000 a year on the
Okay.
same police department.
So now looking back, and having the wisdom and stuff that you have now and stuff, do you think that anyone back then realized that you was involved in something illegal before you realized that they realized it? Or because me being a former crook myself and whatever, we always tend to believe we're getting away and nobody really recognizes and this and that. And if don't nobody else know, our mothers know, our family know. So do you think somebody knew that you was up to something you shouldn't have been, or how do you feel?
Well, No, nobody. Like I said, I never sold drugs.
Right.
I was just involved in the drug game.
Right. But I'm just talking about
So
possibly, all the money that you was coming up with, just the certain moves that you was making. Did anybody realize that, he has a little bit more money than he should have?
no, I didn't spend money.
Uh-huh.
I don't spend money today.
Right.
I don't buy anything today. My wife buys everything that I wear. I don't
Hmm.
go in stores and buy anything. I don't go and
Right.
buy the luxury car. I drive a 2019 truck. Well, I brought
Okay.
it brand new, but still,
Right.
I drive it looks still, but I drive a truck. You know, I don't, I'm not up on the showboating and showing everybody I got something. That's not me. That's how you
Hmm.
get caught anyway.
Right.
But nobody in my family except the ones that knew that were doing it knew what I was doing. My family, my brothers and sisters, a few of them knew,
Right.
but it was not that I was out there enough for everybody in town to be talking about it.
Hmm.
You know,
So how did this ring eventually get busted? What happened?
well, by a partner of mine, he was a fireman on the fire department in Savannah. He was selling to two guys that ended up getting caught doing something else.
Okay.
One got caught being a pimp, and one got caught. The pimp got caught, so he brought the FGBI, or the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, in on his friend, who my partner was selling to. So he was selling to both of them, and then they both ended up turning on him.
Okay.
So he ended up turning on the whole crew later on.
The whole crew, the Miami boys and everybody.
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, he ended up telling on all of us later on. And so that's how it all came down, because he couldn't take the pressure. He was a
Right.
captain on the fire department,
Wow.
and he got caught with his girlfriend over in South Carolina. They were watching him so close that he didn't know that they were following him. So he and his girlfriend at the motel, but the girlfriend, they must have wanted something to smoke. So instead of him getting all that stuff before he leave Savannah and go to cross the bridge to South Carolina, because Savannah sits right on the border with South Carolina. And so him and his girlfriend going over to South Carolina, they get busted in this house. And the feds already knew what they were doing, and they knew he was the weak link. So they busted him, and they arrested him, and put the pressure on him, and he ended up telling everything that was going on. They had nothing on me. I was, like I say, I never sold drugs. I was just involved in the drug game.
Right.
So
So
they didn't have anything on me. Period. You know.
so if you don't mind, give us what it was like, man, when you out there doing your thing or whatever, and the police run up on you. I mean, when do you realize you were in trouble, and how did that happen? Were you at work, or how did that go down?
Well, I was. I noticed that the FBI and the GBI was following me. Well, I didn't know who they were, but I
Right.
knew they were following me for months.
Okay.
Following
Okay.
me to Miami, following me to Jacksonville, following me to Charleston. You know, they were following me. So
Right.
they got in court later on and say I never knew. They must be out their damn mind. I know when somebody followed me as a police officer, you're paranoid for everybody following you. And like right now today, I don't even sit with my back to the door.
Right. I still don't do that either.
In restaurants, my wife also no. When we go to sit down, I sit watching the door because I want to see what's happening. I
Right.
watch everybody, but they were watching me so hard and following me, and I knew we had just quit. We weren't even selling any more drugs. We quit.
Right. So
We
I
had
mean,
quit.
so by you being involved in this, so you obviously then knew that they had to be, or you assumed that whoever was following you, it had to do with the involvement with the drugs or whatever.
Oh,
And
ain't no
and
question. I knew that they were following me because of that, and I knew
and
somebody had told.
and
But
and that's what I was going to
for
ask.
over 18 months they were following me, and I knew I wanted them following me because I wasn't doing anything. They were
Right.
following me for fun.
So did you know at that point that your fireman, your buddy who was a fireman had got caught? Had you knew about that?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was all over TV.
Right.
They put my sister in jail, my brother in jail, my cousin in jail, and then Kelvin, my friend that was a fireman. They busted all
Right.
four of them on the same day. They didn't have
Mhm.
anything on me to arrest me, so they had to get one of them to tell on me.
Right.
But they knew
So
I was involved because the other guys who were told on Kelvin had already told them I was involved. And they'd come to me with stupid questions. And I know, why would this guy ask me these things? So I'm wondering, oh no, he got to be wired. He's setting me up.
mhm.
So I just said, what the hell are you talking about? You talking about me? I got to play crazy. I got to
Right.
turn the
Okay.
music up. And all those things. And
Yeah.
they're trying to trap me. But I would never go. They didn't have a tape on me with nothing. And
Mhm.
it had 80 something tapes. But never with me do anything, because I would never admit to anybody that I was doing anything. I wasn't that dumb. They
Right.
really didn't have enough to convict me. My sister was the real person that was delivering all the drugs. We had an elaborate code system. Back then, you had pagers, little beepers.
Mhm.
You didn't have cell phones like you did. I had a cell phone, but it was just big. My cell phone was big as hell. Let me see what it came out.
Right.
My cell phone was big, this big.
Mhm.
Not like, yeah, you know, back then it was big, big, and like you had to carry it on your shoulder.
Right.
Cell phone, and so the beepers were the thing back then. So I would beep. Anybody would want anything, they would tell me what they want. Then I would send a code to my sister, and we had 7 pagers. They didn't
Mhm.
know where these pagers were. They didn't know
Right.
who had them, and the code would go out, and my sister would go and deliver it.
Okay.
Now they knew this because Kelvin got in the courtroom and with the FBI and told them how the system ran. So
Right.
my sister is delivering all the drugs, correct? How did my sister walk out of the courtroom free?
Mm.
She
Right.
delivered all the drugs. I never gave anybody any drugs. The witnesses said that she did it through me. She did it all.
Right.
Right?
So they basically saw you as kind of like the manager of everything.
Yeah, they gave me the kingpin role. I
Yeah,
was the king.
the manager of sales, directing sales and stuff.
Yeah, I was the kingpin. But the thing is this: my lawyer argued that nothing could have happened without my sister, Cecilia.
Hmm.
So without Cecilia, none of this ever happened, correct? Because no drugs were, if you don't convict her, no drugs was ever delivered. If you
Right.
don't convict her, none of this never happened. Which is true. How could I get caught for drugs that I never sold? Nobody ever said I sold them any. But she get caught. She don't. You arrest her knowing what the informant said, and then she goes free.
Hmm.
So my lawyer wanted a directed verdict to say that, you know if she go free, he got to go free, because if she don't get convicted, none of this ever happened. Because you don't
Right.
have nothing on him except the words of some convicted felons.
Now, let me ask. So, around the time they're following you and you see all this stuff going on, are you getting any words or any like advice of caution from the people that you're working with, I'm talking about at the Savannah police station, or is everybody just quiet?
Well, the upper echelon, the brass, what we call them, the gold badges, they knew.
Hmm.
The lower rank officers did not know a thing.
Right.
But I got warned by a good friend who just died yesterday.
Hmm. My
Um, he
apologies
was
and
a
condolences.
he was a captain on the police department,
Hmm.
and he stopped me one day when I was coming out of the barracks, police headquarters downtown, and he said, "Come here." pulled me over to the side because he remembered me when I was 17 working in the police department. He'd been knowing me that long. He one of the ones that talked me into becoming a police officer.
Right.
And he said, he pulled me over in the corner. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but you got heat on you. He said, you need to chill and get the hell, stop doing whatever the hell you're doing. And I told him, I said, man, I'm not doing anything. I told him, I said, I'm not doing. He said, man, listen, they're on you like white on rice. He said, be careful. They think you're doing it. If you say you're not doing it, then you're not doing it. Then he said, be careful because they got you caught up in something. And I said, okay. And the reason I could tell him with authority that I wasn't doing anything, because this was in April or May of 1990, 1991, 90 or 91. We quit selling in February of 91. We weren't doing anything. We weren't selling any drugs. In May of 91. I got arrested 30 days later or something like that. This was April. So I got arrested about 2 months later